Sarah Bennett's hands shook as she pointed the rifle at the man who'd killed her husband. 3 years she'd been running. 3 years of looking over her shoulder, jumping at shadows, telling her children lies about why they couldn't stay anywhere long. Now Nathaniel Cross sat on his horse 30 yards from the ranch house, smiling that same cold smile he'd worn the day he'd dragged James away in chains. And standing between them was Jackson Mercer, a man she'd known only 12 weeks, a man who'd just asked her to marry him, a man who was about to die because she'd been foolish enough to believe she could ever stop running. If you want to see how a broken woman and a haunted rancher stood against the devil himself, subscribe to this channel and stay until the very end. Drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story of second chances and stubborn courage travels across this world. The advertisement nailed to the post outside Keller's General Store had been there 3 days before Sarah saw it. She'd walked past it twice, her eyes on the ground, her children trailing behind like shadows. Emma clutched Daniel's hand. Thomas carried the canvas sack with everything they owned. They'd learned not to look at things they couldn't have. But on the third day, Emma stopped. "Mama." Sarah turned. Her daughter was staring at the yellowed paper, her lips moving as she read. "Mama, it says widow with children welcome." Sarah's chest tightened. She stepped closer, though every instinct screamed to keep walking to get out of Redemption, Texas, before someone recognized her from the wanted posters that might have made it this far south. The words were plain, written in rough handwriting that suggested a man unused to asking for help. Hiring cook, housekeeper widow with children. Welcome, fair wages, room and board, inquire at Mercer Ranch, 8 miles north. "We can't," Sarah said. "Why not?" Thomas's voice cracked. He was 11 and trying to be a man. "We need money, Mama. Daniel hasn't eaten since yesterday." Sarah looked at Daniel, 7 years old, his face hollow, his eyes too big. He didn't complain. He never complained anymore. "It could be a trap," she whispered. "Everything's a trap to you," Thomas said, and there was anger in his voice she'd never heard before. Maybe some things are just what they say they are." Sarah read the notice again. Widow with children welcome. Most ranchers wanted single men or married couples. Most job notices said, no children, right up front. This one was different, dangerous. That's what different meant. But Daniel's stomach was making noises he tried to hide. Emma's shoes had holes she'd tried to patch with newspaper. Thomas was looking at her with something worse than anger, disappointment. "All right," Sarah heard herself say. "We'll go look. Just look." Jackson Mercer was shoeing a horse when he heard the wagon. He didn't stop working. Visitors meant conversation, and conversation meant people asking questions about why he lived alone in a house built for a family, why the garden was dead, why he looked like a man who'd forgotten how to sleep. Miguel appeared in the barn doorway. "Boss, someone's here." "Tell them I'm busy." "It's a woman, 3 kids." Jack's hammer froze mid-swing. "The job notice." "See. You gonna see her or you gonna hide in here like a coward?" Jack set down the hammer harder than necessary. "I ain't hiding." "Could have fooled me. Been hiding 3 years now." Jack walked past Miguel without answering, because the old vaquero was right, and they both knew it. The wagon in his yard was held together by prayer and stubbornness. The horse pulling it looked ready to drop, and sitting on the driver's seat was a woman who met his eyes without flinching. She was thin, too thin. Her dress had been mended so many times it was more patch than original fabric. Dark hair pulled back severe showed a face all angles and shadows, but her eyes were what stopped him, gray as a winter storm and just as unforgiving. "Mr. Mercer." "That's right." "I'm here about the position." She gestured to the wagon bed. "I have 3 children. Your notice said that was acceptable." Jack's gaze moved to the kids. A girl, maybe 13, sitting straight-backed with her hands folded like she was in church. A boy younger watching Jack with eyes that had seen too much. and a smallest boy, half hidden behind his brother. They were hungry. Jack knew hunger when he saw it. "Notice," said Widow. "You got a name. Sarah Bennett." Kids got names. Emma Thomas Daniel. No elaboration. No explanation. Just facts delivered flat. "Where you coming from?" "Does it matter?" "Might." Sarah's jaw tightened. "We've been traveling. Looking for work. Your notice was the first I've seen that didn't say no children." "How long you been traveling?" "A while." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." They stared at each other. Jack saw desperation in her eyes, carefully hidden, but there nonetheless. She saw what a man who hadn't smiled in so long he'd forgotten how. A man whose house looked like a place hope went to die. "I can cook," Sarah said. "Clean, mend, manage a household. My children work hard and stay out of the way. You won't even know they're here." "House that size, I'd know." "Then we'll be very quiet." Daniel coughed a wet sound that spoke of dust and hunger and too many nights sleeping rough. Sarah's hand moved to him, automatically protective. Jack made a decision he'd probably regret. "Job pays $20 a month. Room and board for all four of you. There's a room off the kitchen, used to be the housekeeper's quarters. Ain't been used in years, but it's got a bed and a stove." Sarah went very still. $20? Plus food, real food, much as you need. Her eyes filled with tears. She blinked back fast. That's generous." "It's fair. You do the work, you get paid. Simple as that." "Nothing's simple, Mr. Mercer." "No," Jack agreed. "Reckon it's not, but the job's real if you want it." Sarah looked at her children. Emma nodded almost imperceptibly. Thomas's expression was hopeful for the first time in months. Daniel just leaned against his mother's side. "We'll take it," Sarah said. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You might change your mind when you see the state of the house." He wasn't exaggerating. When Sarah walked through the door an hour later, her children behind her, she stopped short. Every surface was covered in dust. Dishes piled in the sink, some with food, dried hard as rock. The floor was gritty with tracked dirt. The stove looked like it hadn't been properly cleaned in years. "Jesus," Emma whispered. "Emma?" Sarah said sharply. "Sorry, Mama, it's just—" "It's a mess," Jack interrupted. "Been living like this since my wife died. Miguel keeps telling me to hire help. Took me 3 years to listen." Sarah turned to look at him. "Your wife?" "Elizabeth. Died of consumption 3 years back. House has been—" He stopped. "Well, you can see what it's been." "I'm sorry for your loss." "I'm sorry for yours." They stood in the dirty kitchen, two people who understood grief's weight, and something passed between them. Not attraction, not yet. Just recognition. "I'll get started," Sarah said. "You'll eat first," Jack corrected. "You and the kids. Miguel's bringing supplies from the storage cellar, real food. Then you can decide if the job's worth doing." "Mr. Mercer." "It's Jack, and I ain't asking. You're pale as milk, your kids are swaying on their feet, and I won't have it said I worked someone to death on their first day." Sarah opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Her pride wanted to refuse. Her stomach betrayed her by growling loud enough for everyone to hear. Daniel giggled. The sound was so unexpected, so pure, that everyone stopped and stared at him. "Sorry," he whispered, the laughter dying as fast as it came. "Don't be sorry for laughing, son," Jack said, and his voice was gentler than Sarah had heard yet. "Ain't nothing wrong with finding something funny." But Daniel had already retreated behind Thomas again, his moment of childishness crushed under the weight of fear he carried everywhere. Jack's eyes found Sarah's. The question was clear. What happened to these kids? Sarah looked away. Some questions she couldn't answer. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Miguel brought salt pork beans, cornbread, canned peaches. Simple food, but more than Sarah's family had seen in weeks. Sarah insisted on cooking it herself. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, building up the fire-setting water to boil, slicing the salt pork thin. Emma helped without being asked. Thomas kept Daniel occupied. Jack watched from the doorway, Miguel beside him. "She's running," Miguel said quietly in Spanish. "I know." "From what?" "Don't know. Don't care." "Liar, you care. First time you've cared about anything in 3 years." Jack didn't answer because Miguel was right. When the food was ready, Sarah set the table one place. "What are you doing?" Jack asked. "Making your dinner, Mr. Mercer." "Jack? And what about you?" "The kids." "We'll eat after." "Like hell you will." Sarah's spine straightened. "I work for you. I serve you. That's how this works." "That's not how this works. Not in my house." Jack pulled out chairs. "Sit. All of you." "Mr. Mere Jack. You want the job or not?" "Of course I do." "Then sit down and eat. You can't cook for me if you're dead from starvation and these kids need food in them before they collapse." Sarah's pride warred with her desperation. Desperation won. She sat. The children followed, moving slow like they expected someone to snatch the chairs away. Jack served them himself: salt pork beans, cornbread peaches. He watched Daniel's eyes go wide at the peaches. "Can I, Mama?" the boy whispered. "Yes, baby. You can." They ate in silence. Not the comfortable silence of family, but the desperate silence of people who'd been hungry too long. Sarah tried to eat slowly to set an example, but Jack saw her hands shake as she brought food to her mouth. When had she last had a full meal? Weeks, months. "There's more," he said when Thomas's plate was empty. "We've had enough." "Boy's still hungry, I can see it." "We can't take—" "It's not taking, it's eating. There's a difference." Jack refilled Thomas's plate himself. "You do the work, you get fed. That's the deal." Sarah's eyes filled again. "You're very kind. I'm practical. Can't have my cook fainting from hunger." But they both knew it was more than that. After dinner, Sarah tried to clean up. Jack stopped her. "You've been traveling. You're exhausted. Cleaning can wait until tomorrow." You should get those kids to bed. Your room's through there. Mattress is old, but it's clean. Miguel put fresh linens on this morning." Sarah gathered her children like a hen gathering chicks. They moved toward the small room off the kitchen, Daniel already half asleep on his feet. At the door, she turned back. "Jack." It was the first time she'd used his name. "Yeah. Thank you, for the food, for everything." "It's just a job, Sarah." "No," she said quietly. "It's not." She closed the door before he could respond. Jack stood in the kitchen surrounded by dirty dishes and the ghosts of other dinners. Other nights when this house had been full of life. Elizabeth had loved to cook. She'd been terrible at it, burned everything she touched, but she'd loved it anyway, loved the gathering of people around her table. This was the first time since she'd died that the kitchen felt warm. Dangerous, that warmth. Dangerous to start caring again. But as Jack washed the dishes himself, something he hadn't done in months, he couldn't quite make himself regret hiring Sarah Bennett. Even if she was running from something. Even if that something might follow her here. Sarah lay in the darkness of the small room, her children pressed close on the narrow bed. They'd slept in worse places, much worse. Emma whispered, "Mama, is this real?" "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "The food, the room, him. Mr. Mercer. Is it real or is it like before?" "Before. When Nathaniel Cross had seemed kind. When he'd offered help with no strings attached. When Sarah had been naive enough to believe him." "I don't know yet," Sarah answered honestly. "He seems nice," Daniel murmured, already half asleep. "Seems ain't the same as is." Thomas said, his voice hard. "Thomas?" "I'm just saying, Mama. You told us not to trust nobody. Now we're trusting a stranger. We're surviving, Sarah corrected. There's a difference. But as she lay there listening to her children breathe, feeling the first real security she'd felt in years, Sarah wondered if that was true. Maybe this was more than survival. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something that looked like hope. And that terrified her more than anything Nathaniel Cross had ever done. Because hope could be taken away. And Sarah Bennett had learned the hard way that everything you loved could be ripped from your hands in a single moment. She touched the locket around her neck, James's picture inside worn thin from years of her thumb rubbing across it. "I'm sorry," she whispered to her dead husband. "I'm so sorry we couldn't stay in Denver. I'm sorry I couldn't fight him. I'm sorry for everything." But James couldn't answer. And in the morning, Sarah would have to wake up and face another day of pretending she wasn't looking over her shoulder, pretending she wasn't waiting for Nathaniel Cross to find them, pretending that this fragile safety could possibly last. Jack didn't sleep. He sat in his office, the room he'd turned into a bedroom because he couldn't face the bed he'd shared with Elizabeth, and stared at the ledger without seeing it. A widow with 3 children, running from something. He should have turned her away, should have told her the job was filled, should have protected himself from getting involved in whatever trouble she was carrying. But he'd looked into Daniel's hollow eyes and seen a child who'd forgotten how to laugh. He'd looked at Thomas's defensive posture and seen a boy forced to be a man too soon. He'd looked at Emma's careful composure and seen a girl who'd learned that showing fear was dangerous. And he'd looked at Sarah, brave, desperate, proud Sarah, and seen someone fighting with everything she had to protect her children. How could he turn that away? "You're a fool, Jackson Mercer," he muttered to himself. Miguel had said the same thing in more colorful Spanish when Jack had told him to prepare the housekeeper's room. "She's trouble," Miguel had said. "Probably." "You gonna let her stay anyway?" "Yeah." "Why?" Jack hadn't had an answer then. Didn't have one now. Except the house felt less empty with people in it. Except it had been nice to sit at a table with others, even in silence. Except for 3 years, he'd been sleepwalking through life, and Sarah Bennett's arrival had felt like a bucket of cold water to the face. Uncomfortable, shocking, but alive. He was feeling things again, and that scared him more than the possibility of whatever trouble Sarah was running from. Outside his window, the Texas night was clear and cold. Stars scattered across the sky like thrown salt. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. And in the small room off the kitchen, 4 people who'd been running for years finally slept without fear. For tonight, at least, they were safe. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight was enough. Sarah woke to the sound of someone chopping wood. She sat up fast, heart hammering, reaching for the knife she kept under her pillow. The children were still asleep, tangled together like puppies. Dawn light crept through the single window. The chopping continued. Steady, rhythmic, not threatening. She made herself breathe, made herself remember where she was. The Mercer Ranch, Texas, 8 miles from Redemption. Nathaniel Cross didn't know they were here, yet. Sarah dressed quickly in the same mended dress, ran her fingers through her hair, braided it tight. Her reflection in the cracked mirror showed a woman who looked older than 36. Harder. The softness James had loved was gone, burned away by 3 years of running. She slipped out of the room without waking the children. Jack was in the yard splitting logs like he was trying to kill them. His shirt was already dark with sweat despite the cool morning air. He didn't notice her watching. Miguel did. The old vaquero sat on the porch mending a bridle. His eyes found Sarah, assessed her, then went back to his work. "Coffee's on the stove," he called out. "Boss made it before sunrise. Tastes like dirt, but it's hot." Jack's axe paused mid-swing. He turned, saw Sarah, and something crossed his face too fast to read. "Didn't mean to wake you," he said. "You didn't. I'm an early riser. Coffee's like dirt, I heard." Sarah almost smiled. Almost. "I'll make a fresh pot." "Ain't necessary." "It's my job, isn't it?" Jack drove the axe into the stump and left it there. Your job starts when you're ready, not before. I'm ready now. They looked at each other across 20 feet of packed earth. Two people trying to figure out the boundaries of this arrangement. Miguel coughed. Boss, them fence posts ain't gonna fix themselves. Right. Jack grabbed his hat. I'll be in the north pasture if you need anything. Miguel's here. Don't... He stopped. Don't what? Sarah asked. Don't work yourself to death on the first day. He left before she could answer, his long stride eating up the distance to the barn. He's not good with people anymore, Miguel said, his English heavily accented but clear. Not since Miss Elizabeth died. Sarah turned to face him. How long have you worked here? 40 years. Worked for Jack's father before Jack. Watched that boy grow up. Miguel's fingers worked the leather with practiced ease. He was different before, smiled easy, laughed. Then she got sick, and watching her die, it broke something in him. Why are you telling me this? Because you're running from something, and he's running from something, and I'm old enough to know that two people running in the same direction sometimes end up in the same place. Miguel looked at her directly. Question is, you gonna hurt him when whatever you're running from catches up? Sarah's throat tightened. I won't stay long enough for that. You say that now. I mean it. We'll see. Sarah went inside before he could say more. The kitchen looked worse in daylight. 3 years of neglect stared back at her, but she'd cleaned worse, had lived in worse. She found an apron, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. By the time the children woke, she'd scrubbed the stove, washed every dish, swept the floor twice. The coffee was fresh and hot. Biscuits were baking. Emma appeared first, her hair wild from sleep. Mama. Good morning, sweetheart. There's water in the basin. Wash up and help me with breakfast. Is this, are we really staying? For now. How long is for now? Sarah didn't have an answer for that. Thomas and Daniel stumbled out next, both rumpled and confused. Daniel's cough was worse this morning. Sarah made a mental note to ask about a doctor, then remembered she couldn't. Doctors asked questions. Questions led to answers. Answers led to Nathaniel Cross. Biscuits'll be ready in 10 minutes, she said instead. Thomas, there's a pump out back. Fill that bucket. Daniel, you can help Emma set the table. Set it for how many? Thomas asked. 4. What about Mr. Mercer? He's working. We'll eat separately. Why? Because that's how it works. That ain't how it worked last night. Sarah's hands stilled in the biscuit dough. Last night was different. How? Thomas, please. Just do as I ask. Her son stared at her with James's eyes dark and direct and too knowing for 11 years old. You're scared of him. I'm not. You're scared of everyone. But we gotta eat, and this place has food, so you're pretending you ain't scared. I get it. But you don't gotta pretend with us. Sarah's throat closed up. When had her boy gotten so perceptive? When had he stopped being a child and started being this hard, sharp thing that saw too much? I'm not scared of Mr. Mercer, she said quietly. I'm scared of getting comfortable. There's a difference. Thomas nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess there is. He went to fill the bucket, and Sarah went back to her biscuits, and nobody mentioned that her hands were shaking. Jack came in at noon, dusty and tired. He stopped short when he saw the kitchen. It gleamed. Every surface scrubbed, every dish put away, curtains she must have found somewhere washed and hanging. The smell of soup filled the air, real soup with vegetables and meat. Not the watery broth he'd been living on. Sarah stood at the stove, stirring. She didn't turn around. Lunch is ready, she said. I can bring it to wherever you're working, or... Here's fine. Jack removed his hat. Where are the kids? In their room. They've already eaten. They hiding from me. They're resting. Sarah. He waited until she turned. I ain't gonna hurt them. Or you. You know that, right? I don't know anything about you. Fair enough. But I need you to understand something. Whatever you're running from, whatever happened before you got here, I don't care. You work hard. You take care of this house. We'll get along fine. I ain't gonna pry, and I ain't gonna judge, but I also ain't gonna let anyone hurt you or those kids while you're under my roof. That clear?" Sarah's eyes searched his face. "Why? Why what? Why do you care? We're strangers. We could be criminals for all you know." "Are you?" "No." "Then that's all I need to know. It's not that simple." "It is to me." They stood in the clean kitchen, soup bubbling on the stove, and Sarah made a decision that terrified her. "There's a man," she said, "back in Colorado. He was a U.S. Marshal. He arrested my husband on false charges. James died in his jail. And this man, Nathaniel Cross, he wanted me. Thought because James was gone, I'd—" She stopped, her breath coming too fast. Jack's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went cold and hard. "Go on." I refused. He didn't take it well. Started making threats, started coming around at night. I tried to leave, but he always found me. Then one night there was a fire. His house, his records. 3 people died. And he blamed me. Said I set it. Put out wanted posters, hired bounty hunters. So I ran. Took the children and ran, and we've been running ever since. Did you set the fire? No. You sure? I was 5 miles away when it started. But that doesn't matter. He has money connections. Nobody's gonna believe a widow over a U.S. Marshal. Jack was quiet for a long moment. Then, "How long ago?" 3 years. And he's still looking. Men like Nathaniel Cross don't let things go. I embarrassed him, made him look weak. He'll spend his last dollar to find me. He know you're in Texas. I don't think so. We've been careful. Different names in every town, never staying long, never leaving a trail. What name you using now? Sarah hesitated. Bennett's real. Sarah's real. The rest I've been Mary Elizabeth Anna. Whoever I needed to be. Jack absorbed this. Kids know the truth. Emma does. Thomas suspects. Daniel, he was too young when James died. He doesn't remember much. That boy's scared of men. It wasn't a question. Nathaniel hit him once. Daniel was 4. He wouldn't stop crying, and Nathaniel... Sarah's voice broke. I got between them, but Daniel remembers. He's been afraid ever since. Jack's jaw clenched. Man who hits a child ain't a man. He's a coward. A coward with a badge and the law on his side. Law ain't always right. I learned that as a Texas Ranger. Sarah's head snapped up. You were a ranger. Long time ago. Before Elizabeth. Before... He gestured vaguely. Before I came back here to rot in peace. Why'd you leave? That's a story for another day. Jack moved to the table, sat down heavily. Right now we gotta figure out what to do if this Cross finds you. When? Not if. When? All right. When? What's your plan? Run. Same as always. That ain't much of a plan. It's kept us alive this long. Has it? Or have you just been lucky? Sarah flinched, because he was right. They'd been lucky. Lucky that bounty hunters were lazy. Lucky that Nathaniel's reach hadn't extended this far south yet. Lucky that desperation made you invisible in a way nothing else could. But luck ran out. It always did. I don't have another option, she said quietly. Yeah, you do. You stop running. You don't understand. I understand plenty. I understand you're tired. I understand those kids are tired. I understand running's just another kind of dying, only slower. Jack leaned forward. You want to live in fear the rest of your life? Want your kids to? Of course not, but... Then you make a stand. Here. Now. You let Cross come, and you face him with people who'll stand with you. I can't ask you to. You ain't asking. I'm offering. Sarah shook her head. You don't know what he's capable of. Don't I? Jack's voice went flat. I was a ranger for 8 years. Saw men like Cross. Hell, I arrested men like Cross. They all got the same disease, thinking they own people, thinking the badge gives them the right to do whatever they want. And you know what stops men like that? What? Other men saying no. Other men standing up and saying, you don't get to do this. Not here. Not anymore. He'll kill you. He can try. Jack. Sarah. He stood, moved closer, but didn't touch her. I ain't gonna force you to stay. If you want to pack up your kids and run tomorrow, I'll pay you for the day and wish you luck. But if you're willing to trust me even a little, I'm telling you, you don't have to run anymore. Sarah wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But belief was dangerous. Belief got people killed. I need to think, she whispered. Fair enough. You think? I'll be in the barn if you need me. He left, and Sarah stood alone in the kitchen she'd just cleaned, surrounded by the smell of soup and the ghost of possibility. Emma emerged from the children's room. I heard, she said. Emma. We should stay, Mama. He's right, we can't run forever. We can try? No, we can't. I'm tired, Mama. Thomas is angry all the time. Daniel has nightmares every night. This place feels safe. He feels safe. Can't we try? Sarah pulled her daughter close, felt how thin she was, how fragile despite her strength. If we stay and Cross finds us, then we fight, together, like a family. We could die. We're already dying, just slower. Sarah closed her eyes. When had Emma gotten so wise? When had her baby girl started sounding like the adult? All right, she heard herself say. We'll stay. For now. But if things get dangerous, we run, I know. Emma pulled back. But maybe this time, dangerous won't come. Maybe. But Sarah had stopped believing in maybe 3 years ago, the night Nathaniel Cross had shown her exactly what kind of man he was. Still she'd try. For her children she'd try. Even if it killed them all. The first week passed in a blur of work and wary circling. Sarah cooked and cleaned and tried to make herself invisible when Jack was around. Jack worked from dawn to dark and tried to pretend he didn't notice how Sarah tensed whenever he entered a room. The children moved through the house like ghosts there, but not there. Miguel watched it all with knowing eyes and said nothing. On the 8th day, everything changed. Sarah was in the garden, or what passed for a garden. 3 years of neglect had turned it into a tangle of weeds and dead plants. But underneath she'd found good soil, hope buried deep. She was pulling weeds when she heard hoofbeats. Her blood turned to ice. She turned slowly, her hand already reaching for the knife she kept in her apron pocket. A man sat on a horse at the property line. Tall, lean, watching the house with too much interest. Not Nathaniel, but that didn't mean he wasn't one of Nathaniel's men. Can I help you? Sarah kept her voice steady through sheer force of will. The man tipped his hat. Looking for the Mercer place. You found it. Jack around. In the barn. Who's asking? Old friend. The man's eyes traveled over her, assessing. You the new housekeeper? I am. Got a name? Sarah's hand tightened on the knife. Who wants to know? Easy, ma'am. Just making conversation. But the man's hand had moved to his hip, where a pistol sat in its holster. Sarah. Jack's voice coming from behind her. She hadn't heard him approach. He stepped past her, putting himself between her and the stranger. The movement was casual, but deliberate. Kane, Jack said. What brings you out here? Can't an old friend visit? You ain't just visiting. You're working. I can see it in how you're sitting that horse. The man Kane smiled. Still sharp, Mercer. Yeah, I'm working. Sheriff now over in Redemption. Been hearing stories about a widow with 3 kids. Wanted to check it out. Sarah's lungs stopped working. Stories? Jack said flatly. Yeah. Stories about a woman named Sarah. Or maybe Mary. Or Elizabeth. Stories about a fire in Colorado. Stories about a U.S. Marshal looking for her. Kane's eyes found Sarah again. Stories about bounty hunters asking questions in town. When? Jack's voice went hard. 2 days ago. 3 men. Showed a sketch around, asked if anyone had seen a woman matching the description. Dark hair, 3 kids, probably using a fake name. They still in town. Left yesterday. Heading south, I heard. But Mercer. Kane paused. They'll be back. And when they come, they won't ask polite questions. They'll tear this place apart looking for her. Sarah's knees went weak. She'd known this would happen, known it was only a matter of time. How long do we have? Jack asked. Week, maybe 2 if you're lucky, but luck runs out. Kane looked at Sarah. Ma'am, I don't know your story, and I ain't saying I believe everything I heard. But I need to know, are you wanted by the law? No. Sarah's voice came out stronger than she felt. I'm not wanted for any crime, but there's a man who wants me, and he's using the law to find me. Nathaniel Cross. You know him. Know of him. U.S. Marshal out of Denver. Got a reputation for being thorough. Also got a reputation for being cruel. Kane shifted in his saddle. You telling me he's after you personal, not professional? Yes. What did you do to him? I said no. Kane's expression darkened, and he couldn't accept that. Men like him never do. True enough. Kane looked at Jack. You know what you're getting into. Yeah. You sure? Because Cross has resources, money, connections. He can make your life hell legal-like. Let him try. Jack. I said let him try. Jack's voice was steel. She's under my protection now. Anyone comes for her, they come through me first. Kane studied his old friend. You mean that? Every word. You always were the stubborn son of a bitch. But Kane was smiling slightly. All right, I'll do what I can from my end. Slow things down, make it hard for Cross's men to get information. But Mercer, when they come, and they will come, don't do anything stupid. Stupid like what? Stupid like getting yourself killed over a woman you barely know. Jack didn't answer, which was answer enough. Kane sighed. I'll be in touch, ma'am. He tipped his hat to Sarah and rode off. Sarah waited until he was out of sight before her legs gave out. Jack caught her before she hit the ground. Easy, I got you. They found us. They found us already. They found the general area. That ain't the same as finding you. It's close enough. Sarah pulled away from him, her breath coming in gasps. We have to leave. Tonight. Before... You ain't leaving. You heard him. They're coming. When they get here, we'll be ready. You can't fight a U.S. Marshal. Watch me. Jack, please. I can't have your blood on my hands. I can't. He gripped her shoulders, made her look at him. Listen to me. You didn't cause this. Cross did. He's the one who couldn't take no for an answer. He's the one who abused his power. He's the one who's coming here looking for trouble. None of that's on you. You understand? It doesn't matter whose fault it is. What matters is you stop running. What matters is you trust someone beside yourself for once. What matters is you let me help you. Why? Sarah's voice broke. Why would you risk everything for us? Jack's hands loosened but didn't let go. His eyes, gray-green like creek water, held hers. Because 3 years ago, I stood by Elizabeth's bed and watched her die, and I couldn't do a damn thing to save her. Couldn't fight it. Couldn't stop it. Just had to watch. And it near killed me being that helpless. He paused. But this I can fight. This I can stop. And maybe that's selfish, but I don't care. You and those kids need help, and I'm here, and I'm able. That's enough. Sarah felt tears she'd been holding back for weeks finally break free. I'm so scared, she whispered. I know. But you don't have to be scared alone anymore. He pulled her close, and Sarah let herself lean into him for just a moment. Let herself feel the solid strength of someone else carrying the weight, Then she pulled back, wiped her eyes, and straightened her spine. "All right, we stay, but on one condition." "What's that?" "You teach me to shoot." Jack's eyebrows rose. "You don't know how." "James tried to teach me once. I was terrible. But if Cross comes, I won't hide behind you. I won't make you fight my battle alone." "Sarah, that's the condition. Take it or leave it." Jack studied her, this woman who'd been beaten down by life, but refused to stay down, and felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been frozen for 3 years starting to thaw. Dangerous, that thawing. Dangerous to care. But maybe some things were worth the risk. "All right," he said. "I'll teach you. But we do it right. Every day until you can hit what you're aiming at. Deal." They shook on it, formal as a business arrangement, pretending that's all it was. But they both knew better. Something had changed between them in that conversation. Some line had been crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. Later that night, after the children were asleep and the house was quiet, Sarah stood at the window and looked out at the dark Texas prairie. Somewhere out there, Nathaniel Cross was coming. Somewhere out there, bounty hunters were asking questions and getting closer. Somewhere out there, violence was gathering like a storm. But for the first time in 3 years, Sarah wasn't facing it alone. And that made all the difference. The rifle was heavier than Sarah expected. Jack handed it to her at dawn the next morning, out behind the barn, where nobody from the road could see. Miguel stood nearby, arms crossed, watching with the patience of someone who'd seen this lesson before. "First thing you gotta know," Jack said, "is that shooting ain't about strength. It's about control." Sarah hefted the Winchester, trying to find a comfortable grip. "Feels like it's about strength." "That's because you're fighting it. Here." He stepped behind her, his hands covering hers on the rifle. "Relax your shoulders. The gun don't care how tense you are." His breath was warm against her ear. Sarah made herself focus on the rifle and not on how close he was standing. "Now bring it up slow, butt against your shoulder, firm, but not too tight. You tense up when you shoot, the recoil's gonna hurt." Sarah followed his instructions. The rifle settled into place, feeling slightly less foreign. "Good. Now see that fence post 20 yards out?" "I see it." "Look down the sight. Line it up. Don't rush. Breathe slow." Sarah aimed her finger, finding the trigger. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure Jack could hear it. "When you're ready," he said quietly. "Squeeze gentle. Don't jerk." She squeezed. The rifle kicked hard into her shoulder. The shot went wide, missing the fence post by 3 feet. "Told you not to jerk," Jack said, but his voice held no criticism. "Try again." For the next hour, Sarah shot until her shoulder ached and her ears rang despite the cotton Miguel had given her. She missed more than she hit, but slowly, painfully, she started to understand the rhythm of it, the breathing, the squeeze, the moment between decision and action. On her 23rd shot, she hit the fence post. "There you go," Jack said, and there was genuine pride in his voice. "Now do it again." She did, and again, and again. By the time the sun was fully up, Sarah's hands were shaking from exhaustion, but she could hit the post 6 times out of 10. "Enough for today," Jack said. "You did good." "I'm terrible." "You're learning. That's different." He took the rifle from her. "We'll practice every morning until it's second nature. By the time Cross gets here, you'll be able to defend yourself." "If he gets here," Sarah wanted to say. But she knew better. When. Always when. Emma was waiting when Sarah came back inside. "Can you teach me too?" Sarah's stomach dropped. "Absolutely not." "Why, if there's going to be trouble." "There's not going to be trouble. And you're 13 years old." "Mama, I'm not a baby. If men come here with guns..." "If men come here with guns, you take your brothers and you hide. That's your job. Protect them, not fight." Emma's jaw set in a way that reminded Sarah painfully of James. Stubborn, determined. "You're gonna fight." "I'm an adult." You weren't much older than me when you married Papa. That was different. How? Emma, please, don't fight me on this. I ain't fighting. I'm asking to learn to protect myself. There's a difference. Sarah looked at her daughter, her baby girl who wasn't a baby anymore, and saw the truth. Emma had grown up hard and fast over the past 3 years. She'd seen things done, things survived, things that children shouldn't have to. Treating her like a child now was dishonest. But teaching her to shoot felt like admitting the violence was coming. Like preparing for war, instead of hoping for peace. I'll think about it, Sarah said finally. That means no. That means I'll think about it. Now help me with breakfast. The men will be hungry. Emma didn't push further, but Sarah saw the disappointment in her eyes. Later, while Sarah was kneading bread, Thomas appeared. Mama, Miguel says I can help with the horses if it's all right with you. What kind of help? Mucking stalls, brushing them down. He says I got a gentle hand. Sarah's first instinct was to say no. Keep the children close where she could watch them, where she could grab them and run if needed. But Thomas was looking at her with hope in his eyes, real hope, the first she'd seen in months. All right, she heard herself say. But you do exactly what Miguel tells you. No taking risks. I won't. I promise. Thomas hugged her quick and hard, then ran out before she could change her mind. Sarah's hands stilled in the dough. When had she last seen him run like that? Like a child instead of a soldier. You're letting them put down roots. Sarah jumped. Jack was leaning against the doorframe watching her. I didn't hear you come in. You were thinking too loud. He moved to the table, poured himself coffee from the pot she'd made. Thomas is a good worker. Miguel already likes him. That was fast. Miguel don't waste time deciding about people. Says Thomas reminds him of his grandson back in Mexico. He has a grandson. Had. Boy died 10 years back. Fever. Miguel don't talk about it much. Jack paused. He's gonna teach Thomas everything he knows. Probably spoil him rotten while doing it. That all right with you? Sarah went back to kneading harder than necessary. I don't know what's all right anymore. 3 years, I've been teaching them not to trust anyone, not to put down roots, not to get attached. Now you want me to let them live. I want you to let them live. What if we have to run? What if Cross comes and we have to leave in the middle of the night? It'll hurt worse if they've started to feel safe here. And if Cross don't come, if Kane's wrong and the bounty hunters move on, you're gonna spend the rest of your life preparing to run. If I have to. That ain't living, Sarah. That's just slow dying. Better slow than fast. Jack set down his coffee cup with more force than necessary. You really believe that? I don't know what I believe anymore. They stared at each other across the kitchen table. Two wounded people trying to figure out how to stop hurting. My wife, Jack said suddenly. She got sick in the spring. By summer, she couldn't get out of bed. By fall, she couldn't speak. I spent those months trying to prepare for losing her. Thought if I built up enough walls, it wouldn't hurt so bad when she died. Did it work? No. It just meant I wasted the last months of her life being scared instead of loving her. His voice roughened. Don't make my mistake, Sarah. Don't waste time preparing for bad things that might not happen. Let your kids be kids while they still can. Sarah's throat closed up. What if I can't? What if I've forgotten how? Then learn again. Same way you're learning to shoot. One day at a time. Before Sarah could answer, Daniel burst through the door, his face flushed with excitement. Mama Miguel says there's kittens in the barn. Can I see them? Please. Sarah knelt down, brushed hair from his forehead. Kittens. Baby ones. He says the mama cat had 5. Can I go see? Sarah looked at Jack over Daniel's head. He nodded slightly. All right, baby. But stay close to Miguel and don't touch them too much. Mama cats get protective. I'll be careful. Thank you. Daniel threw his arms around her neck, then ran back out, his earlier fear of Jack completely forgotten. "See," Jack said softly. "He's already healing. Let him." Sarah stood her knees protesting. "You make it sound simple." "Ain't simple, but it's necessary." The days that followed fell into a rhythm Sarah hadn't felt since before James died. She cooked and cleaned and practiced shooting. The children worked alongside Miguel, learning skills Sarah hadn't realized they needed. Jack was a quiet presence there, but not crowding, helpful, but not intrusive. It felt almost normal. That's what scared her most. On the 10th day, Reverend Howard came calling. Sarah was in the garden when she heard the wagon. She looked up, saw the pastor's buggy, and felt her stomach drop. Religious men asked questions, poked into business that wasn't theirs, judged. Jack emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on his pants. "Reverend, what brings you out here? Heard you hired a housekeeper." The old pastor climbed down from his buggy, moving slow with age. "Thought I'd come introduce myself. Welcome the lady to our community." "Sarah," Jack called. "Come meet Reverend Howard." Sarah made herself walk over, made herself smile, made herself look like a normal woman with nothing to hide. "Ma'am." The Reverend tipped his hat. "Samuel Howard. I pastor the Baptist Church in Redemption." "Sarah Bennett. Pleased to meet you, Reverend." "Bennett." He repeated the name slowly. "You related to the Bennetts up in Denver?" Sarah's heart stopped. "No, sir, it's a common name." "I suppose it is. You got children, I hear." "3. Emma, Thomas, and Daniel." "Fine biblical names. They in school?" "Not yet. We've only just arrived and—" "No need to explain, ma'am. I'm not here to pry. Just wanted to extend an invitation to Sunday services. You and the children would be most welcome." It was a trap. Sarah knew it was a trap. Go to church, meet people, answer questions, leave a trail. But refusing would be suspicious. "That's very kind," she said carefully. "We'll certainly consider it." "You do that, and Mrs. Bennett. If you ever need anything spiritual, counsel, practical help, a listening ear, my door's always open." He meant it kindly. Sarah could see that. But kindness made her uncomfortable. Kindness meant people looking too close. After the Reverend left, Jack found her standing rigid in the yard. "He's a good man," Jack said. "Won't push if you don't want to go. Everyone in that church will look at us. They'll wonder where we came from, why we're here. They'll talk. Let them talk. Talking ain't hurting. Talking leads to questions. Questions lead to cross-finding you. I know, but Sarah, you can't live your whole life afraid of being seen." "Why not? It's kept us alive." "Has it? Or has it just kept you breathing?" Sarah turned on him, anger flaring hot. "Stop acting like you know what's best for me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what he's capable of." "You're right, I don't. But I know what fear's capable of. Seen it eat people alive from the inside out." Jack's voice was hard now. "You want to live in fear, fine. But don't pretend you're protecting your kids. You're just teaching them to be afraid." "That's not fair." "Ain't it? Look at Daniel. 2 weeks ago he couldn't talk to a grown man without hiding. Now he's showing me drawings and asking about the horses. That's because he's starting to feel safe. You gonna take that away from him because you're scared. You don't understand." "I understand plenty. I understand you've been hurt bad and you're trying to protect yourself. But there's protecting and there's hiding, and you gotta figure out which one you're doing." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "I hate you." "No, you don't. You hate that I'm right. Go to hell." "Already been. Spent 3 years there. Trying to leave." They glared at each other, both breathing hard, both too stubborn to back down. Then Emma's scream split the air. Sarah and Jack ran. They found Emma in the barn, backing away from a man Sarah had never seen before. He was tall, weathered, with a gun on his hip and cold eyes that tracked Emma like a predator watching prey. "Easy, little girl," the man said. "Just asking questions." Jack stepped between Emma and the stranger, his hand dropping to his own gun. "Who the hell are you?" "Name's Warren. I'm looking for someone." Warren's hand moved casually toward his weapon. Woman. Dark hair. 3 kids. Heard she might be working around here. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Get out, Jack said, his voice deadly quiet. Not till I get answers. You the rancher, Mercer? I am, and you're trespassing. You got 5 seconds to leave before I shoot you for it. Warren smiled. That's unfriendly. I'm just doing a job. Got hired to find this woman. She's wanted for arson. Murder, maybe. Man paying me says she's dangerous. What man? Nathaniel Cross, U.S. Marshal. Pays good money for information. Warren's eyes found Sarah, who'd frozen in the barn doorway. That her? Don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do. I can see it in how you're standing. How she's standing. That's her, ain't it? Jack's gun cleared leather faster than Warren expected. The barrel pressed against Warren's forehead before the bounty hunter could blink. Last chance, Jack said. Ride out now, or I put a bullet through your skull. You won't shoot. You're a law-abiding man. Used to be. Then I met people like you. Changed my perspective. Warren's smile faded. He looked into Jack's eyes and saw something that made him step back. This ain't over. Cross'll send more men. Better men. You can't protect her forever. I can try. Warren backed toward his horse hands visible, but his eyes promised violence. You're making a mistake, Mercer. A big one. Won't be the first. They watched Warren ride away, dust rising behind him. Emma was crying. Sarah pulled her close, felt her daughter shaking. It's all right, sweetheart. He's gone. He knew Mama. He knew who we were. How did he know? I don't know, baby. I don't know. But she did know. Someone in Redemption had talked. Someone had put the pieces together. Someone had sold them out for Cross's money. The hunt was over. They'd been found. Jack turned to face her, his expression grim. How long until Cross gets here? Days. Maybe a week if we're lucky. Then we got work to do. Jack, we can't stay. You heard him. More are coming. Better men. We have to. You ain't running. Jack's voice was steel. Not this time. This time we stand and we fight. You'll die. Maybe. But I'll die on my feet instead of living on my knees. There's worse ways to go. Sarah looked at this man who'd known her only 2 weeks, who was willing to die for her anyway, and felt something crack in her chest. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this? Jack's expression softened just slightly. Because 3 years ago, I stood by and watched someone I loved die, and I couldn't do nothing about it. Because those kids deserve better than running. Because you deserve better than being hunted like an animal. And because... He stopped. Because what? Because when you walked into my life, the house stopped being empty. And I ain't ready to let that go yet. Sarah's breath caught. Jack, don't. Don't say nothing you ain't ready to say. Just trust me. Can you do that? Could she trust had nearly gotten her killed before? Trust meant vulnerability. Trust meant caring about someone enough to let them hurt you. But looking at Jack Mercer with his gray-green eyes and his stubborn jaw and his absolute certainty that fighting was better than running, Sarah made a choice. All right, she said. We stay. We fight. But if things go bad, we'll handle it. You don't know that. No. But I know I ain't letting Cross take you without a fight. That's enough. Miguel appeared from the back of the barn, a rifle in his hands. That pendejo gone. For now, Jack said. But he'll be back, with friends. Bueno, I was getting bored. Miguel checked his rifle with the ease of long practice. We got maybe a week to prepare. I'll ride to town, talk to Kane. See if we can get the law on our side. Kane can't fight a U.S. Marshal. No, but he can slow one down, make things difficult, buy us time. Time for what? Sarah asked. To make this ranch into a fortress, Jack said. To get the children somewhere safe, to figure out how to survive what's coming. Sarah felt Emma press closer to her side, felt the weight of her daughter's fear and her trust in equal measure. "What do you need me to do?" Sarah asked. Jack looked at her with something like respect. "Keep practicing with that rifle, because when Cross gets here, I need you ready to use it." "I will be. I know." That night after the children were in bed and Miguel had ridden to town and the house was quiet, Sarah stood at her window and watched Jack walk the property line. He moved like a man checking for weaknesses, planning defenses, preparing for war. For her. He was preparing to fight for her. The thought terrified and warmed her in equal measure. "Mama," Sarah turned. Daniel stood in the doorway, his hair mussed from sleep. "What is it, baby?" "I had a bad dream. The mean man was back." Sarah's heart clenched. "What mean man?" "The one from before. The one who hurt you. Nathaniel." Daniel still remembered even though he'd been so small. Sarah crossed to her son, lifted him even though he was getting too big for it. He wrapped his arms around her neck and held on tight. "The mean man ain't here," she said softly, "and Mr. Mercer won't let him hurt us." "Promise?" Sarah thought about lying. Thought about making promises she couldn't keep. "I promise we'll fight," she said instead. "All of us together. And we won't let him win. Not this time." Daniel pulled back to look at her face. "You're scared." "Yes." "But you're staying anyway." "Yes." "Why?" Sarah looked out the window at Jack's silhouette against the night sky. "Because Mr. Mercer's right. We can't run forever. And I'm tired, Daniel. So tired of being afraid." "Me too," Daniel whispered. "Then we'll stop. Together." "Together," Daniel agreed. Sarah held her son and watched Jack patrol the darkness and made peace with her decision. They would stay. They would fight. And if Nathaniel Cross wanted her, he'd have to go through a Texas Ranger, a Mexican vaquero, and a woman who'd finally decided she was worth defending. Let him come. She'd be ready. Miguel returned from town at midnight with news that made Jack's jaw tighten. "Kane says Cross left Denver 3 days ago, heading south with 6 men, maybe more." Sarah's hands stopped moving in the dishwater. "How does Kane know? Telegraph operator owes him favors. Cross sent a wire to his men here, said he's coming to collect his property personally." Miguel spat to the side. "That's what he called you. Property." "How long do we have?" Jack asked. 5 days. Maybe 6. "That's not enough time." "It's what we got." Jack turned to Sarah. "The children need to go." "What?" "It ain't safe here. Cross comes with 6 men, there's gonna be shooting. I won't have those kids caught in the crossfire." "Where would they go?" "Reverend Howard. He's got that house behind the church. Big place room for them. He'll keep them safe." "No." Sarah's voice was flat. "I'm not sending my children away." "Sarah?" "No. We stay together. That's not negotiable." "You're being stubborn." "I'm being their mother. I've already lost their father. I won't lose them too." Jack looked at Miguel. The old vaquero shrugged. "She's right, boss. You split them up, now those kids'll think she's sending them away forever. They've been abandoned enough." "They haven't been abandoned," Sarah said sharply. "I've kept them alive." "I know that, but they're scared and scared children think the worst. You send them to town now, they'll think you don't want them anymore." Sarah's anger drained away, replaced by exhaustion. "So what do we do?" "We prepare," Jack said. "Tomorrow we fortify this place, board up windows we don't need, set up positions with clear sight lines, stock ammunition, make sure everyone knows where to go when shooting starts." "Everyone?" "You, me, Miguel. Emma, if she's willing. Thomas watches the little one." "Emma's 13. Emma's old enough to hold a rifle if she has to. Rather have her able to defend herself than helpless." Sarah closed her eyes. "This is insane." "Yeah, but it's happening whether you like it or not." The next morning, Emma proved she'd been listening. "Teach me to shoot." Sarah looked up from the breakfast she was making. "Emma, You're learning. Thomas is learning to ride. Daniel gets to play with kittens. What am I supposed to do? Hide? Yes. I won't. I'm tired of hiding, Mama. Tired of being scared. Tired of running. Mr. Mercer says we're making a stand. I want to stand too. Jack appeared in the doorway, drawn by raised voices. She's got a point. Stay out of this, Sarah snapped. Can't. It's my ranch, my fight, and she's asking to help. I ain't gonna say no to that. She's a child. I was younger than her when I learned. Saved my life more than once. Sarah looked between her daughter and Jack, saw the same stubborn determination in both their faces. Fine. But you listen to every word he says. You follow every instruction. And if I say stop, you stop. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. An hour later, Sarah stood behind the barn, watching Jack teach Emma the same way he'd taught her. His hands gentle, his voice patient. Emma was a better student, less afraid, more focused. On her fifth shot, she hit the fence post, dead center. Natural talent, Miguel observed. He was beside Sarah, watching with approval. Girl's got good eyes, steady hands. She's 13, Sarah said again, like saying it enough times would make it matter. Age don't mean nothing when bullets start flying. What matters is, she can defend herself. Sarah's throat tightened. She shouldn't have to. No, but she does. World ain't fair, Senora. You know that better than most. Emma fired again. Another hit. Sarah felt pride and grief war in her chest. Her baby girl learning to kill. What would James think? But James was dead, and the living had to protect themselves. That afternoon, Thomas came running from the north pasture where he'd been working with Miguel. Riders coming. Jack grabbed his rifle. How many? 2. They ain't riding fast, though. Everyone inside. Now. Sarah herded the children into the house. Emma grabbed the rifle Jack had given her that morning. Thomas positioned himself at the window. Daniel pressed against Sarah's side, trembling. It's all right, baby, Sarah whispered, though her own heart was racing. We're safe. The riders stopped at the property line. Jack walked out to meet them, Miguel flanking him. Both men had rifles ready. Sarah watched through the window, her breath coming short. One of the riders dismounted, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a marshal's badge that caught the sunlight. No, Sarah breathed. Mama! Emma's voice was sharp with fear. Is that? Get your brothers to the cellar. Now. But, now, Emma. Emma obeyed, dragging Daniel toward the cellar door. Thomas hesitated. Mama, you need to hide too. I'm not hiding from him ever again. Go with your sister. Mama. Go. Thomas ran. Sarah heard the cellar door slam, heard the bolt slide home. Then she picked up her rifle and walked outside. Nathaniel Cross turned when he heard the door. His smile was the same one that haunted her nightmares. Sarah, it's been too long. She said nothing, just aimed the rifle at his chest. Now that's no way to greet an old friend. We were never friends. No, I seem to remember differently. I remember offering you a home, protection, everything you needed after poor James died in my jail. You killed him. I arrested a criminal. What happened after was unfortunate. You starved him, beat him, made sure he never saw a trial. Cross's smile never wavered. I upheld the law. That's my job. Speaking of which, he gestured to the man beside him. This is Deputy Marshal Warren. We're here on official business. Warren, the same man who'd come before, who'd found Emma in the barn. Jack's rifle came up. Official business on my property requires a warrant. Cross pulled a paper from his coat. I have one, signed by a territorial judge, authorizes me to arrest Sarah Bennett for arson and murder. Let me see it. Cross handed it over. Jack read it, his expression darkening. This is 3 years old, and it ain't specific. Just says, female suspect, late 20s, dark hair. Could be anybody. Could be. But we both know it's her. Knowing and proving are different things. Are they? Let's ask the lady. Cross's eyes found Sarah. Did you set fire to my house? Sarah? Did you burn it to the ground with 3 people inside? No. Did you steal $40 from my safe before you ran? That was my wages. Money you owed me. Interesting interpretation. The law might see it differently. The law. Sheriff Kane's voice cut through the tension. Is me in this county. Kane rode up from the south, his own deputies flanking him. 3 men total, all armed. Cross's smile tightened. Sheriff, I have a federal warrant. I see that. I also see it's 3 years old and awful vague. Makes me wonder why you waited so long to act on it. I've been looking for her. She's good at hiding. Or maybe you ain't got a real case. Maybe you're abusing your authority to pursue a personal vendetta. Cross's facade cracked slightly. You're interfering with federal business. I'm protecting a citizen of my county from harassment. There's a difference. Kane dismounted, moved to stand beside Jack. Here's how this is going to work. You want to arrest Mrs. Bennett? You file proper papers with the territorial court. You get a judge to review the evidence. You do it legal. I am doing it legal. No, you're waving around an old warrant and hoping nobody calls your bluff. I'm calling it. Kane's hand rested on his gun. Now you can ride out peaceful, or we can have a conversation about jurisdiction and federal overreach. Your choice. Cross looked at Kane, at Jack, at Miguel, at Sarah standing on the porch with a rifle. 4 against 2. Bad odds even for a U.S. Marshal. This isn't over, Cross said. It is for today, Kane replied. Cross's eyes found Sarah again. You can't hide behind these men forever. Eventually they'll leave. They'll get tired of protecting you, and when they do, I'll be waiting. Then you'll be waiting a long time, Jack said. Because I ain't leaving. And I ain't getting tired. You don't know what you're defending. She's a liar, a thief, a murderer. She's none of those things. But even if she was, she'd still be under my protection. So you got a choice, Cross. You can leave now with your dignity intact, or I can shoot you for trespassing. Either way, you ain't taking her. The 2 men stared at each other. Jack's finger moved to his trigger. Cross laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're making a mistake, Mercer. A fatal one. Won't be my first. Cross remounted Warren following. But before riding off, Cross called out, I'll give you 3 days, Sarah. 3 days to come with me willingly. After that, I come back with enough men to burn this place to the ground, and everyone in it dies. Your choice. Then he was gone, dust rising behind his horse. Sarah's knees gave out. Jack caught her before she fell. I got you. You're all right. He means it. He'll come back. He'll kill everyone. Let him try. Kane approached, his expression grim. Jack, he's serious. 3 days from now, he'll come back with an army. You can't fight that. Watch me. Don't be stupid. Send the woman and kids to Santa Fe. I got friends there, federal marshals who ain't corrupt. They can protect her, get her a fair hearing. No. Sarah pulled away from Jack, forced herself to stand. I'm not running anymore. I'm not putting anyone else in danger. I'll go with him. The hell you will, Jack said. It's the only way to keep you safe. I don't want to be safe. I want to do what's right. Right gets people killed. So does wrong. At least with right, you can look at yourself in the mirror. Sarah turned to Kane. If I go with Cross, will he leave everyone else alone? Sarah, no. Jack grabbed her arm. Will he? She asked again. Kane hesitated. Probably. He wants you, not them. Then I'll go. Tomorrow morning. I'll turn myself in. Over my dead body. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Sarah's voice broke. Don't you understand? He'll kill you. He'll kill Miguel. He'll burn this ranch and everyone in it just to prove he can. I can't I can't have that on my conscience. And I can't have you in his custody. You know what he'll do to you. I don't care. Well, I do. Jack's voice rose to match hers. I care, Sarah. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it's stupid and reckless and gonna get me killed, but I care what happens to you. And I ain't letting you sacrifice yourself for me. It's not your choice. The hell it ain't. This is my ranch, my fight, my decision. Your death sentence. So be it. They glared at each other, both breathing hard, both too angry and scared to back down. Kane cleared his throat. I'm gonna go. Give you two a chance to figure this out without an audience. But Jack, 3 days. After that, I can't help you. Federal authority trumps county law. I understand. Do you? Because Cross ain't bluffing? He'll come back with 20 men, 30, however many it takes. And when he does, people are gonna die. Then we'll make sure he's one of them. Kane shook his head sadly. You always were the most stubborn son of a bitch I ever met. Learned from the best. After Kane left, Sarah and Jack stood in the yard, the weight of the coming violence pressing down on them. You should go, Sarah said finally. You and Miguel, take the children to town. Leave me here. When Cross comes back, I'll surrender. It's the only way. No. Jack. I said no. You ain't facing him alone. You ain't surrendering. And you sure as hell ain't sacrificing yourself for me? He moved closer, his voice dropping. 3 years, I've been dead inside. 3 years of just going through the motions, not caring about anything, not feeling anything. Then you walked through that door with your kids, and your pride, and your stubbornness, and everything changed. The house stopped being empty. I stopped being empty. And I ain't going back to that. I can't. You'll die. Maybe. But I'll die knowing I fought for something worth fighting for. That's more than I've had in a long time. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I'm not worth dying for. That's where you're wrong. He reached out, cupped her face with work-roughened hands. Sarah froze, torn between pulling away and leaning in. I know we ain't known each other long, Jack said quietly. I know this is all moving too fast. But Sarah, when I look at you, I see strength. I see courage. I see a woman who survived hell and kept her children alive through sheer force of will. You think that ain't worth fighting for? I think it's gonna get you killed. We're all gonna die someday. Rather die for something that matters. Sarah closed her eyes, felt his hands warm against her skin. When was the last time someone had touched her gently? When was the last time she'd let them? I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. But we're gonna face it together. You, me, Miguel. Emma, if she's willing. We're gonna make this ranch into a fortress, and when Cross comes back, we're gonna make him regret it. What if we lose? Then we lose fighting. That's better than losing without trying. Sarah opened her eyes, looked into his face, and saw absolute certainty. He meant every word. You're insane. Probably. You gonna stay anyway? Sarah thought about running, about grabbing her children in the night and disappearing like she'd done so many times before, about going back to that half-life of fear and hiding. Then she thought about Emma learning to shoot, Thomas laughing with Miguel, Daniel playing with kittens without fear. Thought about Jack stubborn and wounded and willing to die for her. Thought about what it would mean to finally stop running. Yeah, she heard herself say. I'm gonna stay. Jack's smile was the first real one she'd seen from him. Good. Now let's go tell the kids we're preparing for war. The children took it better than expected. Emma nodded, her jaw set. I'll fight. Thomas said, Miguel's been teaching me to reload fast. I can help. Even Daniel, sweet, terrified Daniel, squared his small shoulders. I won't cry. I promise I won't cry. Sarah pulled them all close, these brave, broken children who deserved so much better than this. You don't have to be brave, she told them. You just have to survive. We will, Emma said with absolute confidence. Because we got each other, and we got Mr. Mercer, and we ain't running no more. That night, Miguel walked the property line while Jack and Sarah made plans. We got 3 days, Jack said, spreading a rough map on the table. 3 days to turn this ranch into something Cross can't easily take. How do we do that? We use the land. The barn gives us high ground. The house gives us cover. We dig shooting positions here and here. He marked spots on the map. We stock them with ammunition and water. We make sure anyone coming at us has to cross open ground where we can see them. Cross has more men. Numbers don't mean everything in a fight. We got advantage of position. We know this land, and we're fighting for something we believe in. That matters more than you'd think. Sarah studied the map, trying to see it the way Jack did. Trying to imagine herself killing men who came to hurt her family. Could she do it? Pull the trigger and watch someone die. She'd find out soon enough. What about the children? She asked. Where do they go when shooting starts? Cellar. It's reinforced, hard to reach. Emma can defend it from inside if she has to. I don't want Emma defending anything. I don't either. But wanting don't matter now. What matters is survival. The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. They dug positions, stocked ammunition, boarded up windows. Miguel taught Thomas to reload rifles blindfolded so he could do it in darkness or smoke. Jack drilled Sarah until she could hit a moving target 8 times out of 10. Emma proved to be the best shot of all of them. Natural killer, Miguel said approvingly. Girl's got ice water in her veins. Sarah watched her daughter shoot with calm precision and felt her heart break. 13 years old and learning to kill. What kind of mother allowed this? The kind trying to keep her children alive. On the 3rd morning, they woke to find 7 riders at the property line. Not Cross and Warren. 7 men Sarah had never seen before. Hard men with dead eyes and guns for hire written all over them. Jack stepped onto the porch, rifle ready. You're trespassing. The leader grinned. Marshal Cross sends his regards. Says your 3 days are up. Says you had your chance. Where is he? Coming, with more men. These are just, what did he call it, insurance. Make sure you don't run before the fun starts. We ain't running. Stupid, but it's your funeral. The men dismounted, made themselves comfortable at the property line. Waiting. Sarah stood at the window watching them, her rifle heavy in her hands. Mama. Daniel's voice was small. Are they gonna hurt us? Sarah looked down at her son. His eyes were wide but not frightened. Trusting her to protect him. Not if I can help it, baby. I believe you. Such simple faith. Such complete trust. Sarah would die before she broke it. Night fell. The 7 men built a fire, 8 talked. Sentries walking the perimeter to make sure nobody left the ranch. Inside the house, the defenders prepared. They'll come at dawn, Jack said. That's when Cross'll arrive. He'll want good light. Want to see everything. How many will he bring? 20, maybe more. We can't fight that many. We don't have to fight all of them. Just enough to make it too expensive. Cross is a coward. He'll back off if he starts losing men. You sure about that? No, but it's all we got. Sarah checked her rifle for the 100th time. Checked the ammunition. Checked the positions they'd prepared. Everything was ready. They were as prepared as they could be. Now they just had to survive until morning. Dawn came with dust on the horizon. Sarah stood at the window watching the cloud grow larger. Her hands were steady on the rifle. That surprised her. She'd expected to shake to feel fear paralyze her the way it had for 3 years. Instead, she felt calm, cold, ready. How many? Jack asked from his position by the door. Can't tell yet. 20 at least. More than I hoped. Less than I feared. Miguel crossed himself. Dios nos ayude. God helps those who help themselves, Jack replied. Everyone to positions. Emma, you got the children. Yes, sir. Emma's voice was steady too. She'd already taken Thomas and Daniel to the cellar along with water and ammunition. If the house fell, she'd defend them from there. 13 years old and ready to kill. Sarah pushed the thought away. No time for grief now. Grief was for after. If there was an after. The riders came into view. Sarah counted 23 men, including Cross and Warren. They stopped at the property line, spread out in a line that stretched across the entire approach to the house. Cross sat in the center, his marshal's badge catching the early light. He looked confident, certain of victory. Sarah hated him with a purity that took her breath away. "Last chance, Mercer." Cross's voice carried across the distance. "Send out the woman and everyone else lives. You have my word, as a U.S. Marshal." "Your word ain't worth spit," Jack called back. "We all know what happens to people who trust you." "Then you're choosing death. For yourself, for that old Mexican, for those children hiding in your cellar." Sarah felt ice slide down her spine. He knew about the cellar. How "one of my men used to work here." Cross continued reading her mind. "Told me all about this place. Where the weak points are. Where people hide. You got nowhere to run, Sarah. Nowhere to hide. Come out now and I'll let the children live." "Liar." Sarah's voice cracked. "You'll kill them anyway." "Maybe, maybe not. But if you stay in there, I guarantee they die. So what's it gonna be? You gonna sacrifice those babies for your pride?" Sarah's hands trembled now. Not from fear, from rage. Jack touched her shoulder. "Don't listen. He's trying to rattle you." "It's working." "I know, but you gotta trust me. We can win this." "How we're 3 against 23? 4. Emma's voice came from the cellar stairs. "I can shoot." "Emma, get back down there." "No, Mama. Thomas can watch Daniel. You need me up here." Sarah looked at her daughter, saw James in her eyes, saw strength she hadn't known was there. "All right, take the west window. Don't shoot unless you have to. Conserve ammunition." "Yes, ma'am." Cross was still talking, his voice carrying easily across the open ground. "I'm giving you 1 more minute. After that we come in, and we don't leave until I have Sarah. Dead or alive don't matter to me." Jack moved to his position. 60 seconds. "Everyone ready?" Sarah's mouth was dry. "Ready." Miguel chambered around. "Listo." Emma settled her rifle on the windowsill. "Ready, Mr. Mercer?" The 60 seconds stretched like hours. Sarah watched Cross check his pocket watch. Watched him smile. Watched him raise his hand. "Time's up," he shouted. "Take the house." The line of riders surged forward. "Wait," Jack said quietly. "Let them get close. Make every shot count." The riders came on whooping and firing pistols wildly, trying to intimidate, trying to make the defenders panic and shoot too soon. Sarah's finger rested on the trigger. 30 yards. 25. 20. "Now," Jack said. 4 rifles spoke as one. 3 riders fell. The 4th's horse screamed and went down. The charge faltered. Men wheeled their horses seeking cover. "Reload." Jack's voice was calm. "Pick your targets. Don't waste shots." Sarah's hands moved automatically. Eject the spent shell. Chamber a new round. Find a target. A man tried to circle toward the barn. Sarah led him slightly squeezed. He fell. "Good shot," Jack said. "Miguel, you got the south approach." "See, boss, nobody gets through here." The attackers regrouped. Cross was shouting orders, spreading his men out, trying to come from multiple directions at once. Smart. If they hit from all sides, the defenders couldn't cover everything. "Emma, watch the back," Jack called. "They'll try to flank us." "I see them." Emma's rifle cracked. A man climbing through the rear window dropped back outside. "Got him." Sarah felt sick pride. Her daughter's first kill. What kind of world made that necessary? This one. The world Nathaniel Cross had created by refusing to take no for an answer. More shots hammered the house. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. One bullet passed so close to Sarah's head, she felt the wind of it. "Stay down." Jack was beside her, pulling her below the window line. "You can't help if you're dead." Neither can you. Yeah, but I've had practice at this. You haven't. Another volley of gunfire. Something upstairs crashed. They're trying to burn us out, Miguel said. See the smoke? Sarah looked. A thin trail of smoke was rising from the north side of the house. The children are in the cellar. Stone walls underground. Fire can't reach them. Jack's voice was steady. But we need to move. Can't stay here once the smoke gets bad. Move where? Barn. Its stone won't burn easy. Better sight lines. We can hold there. That means crossing open ground. I know. But staying here means dying from smoke. Your choice. It wasn't a choice. Not really. How do we do this? Miguel goes first, covers from the barn. Then you and Emma. I'll come last, keep them busy. No, I'll come last. Sarah. You're a better shot. We need you alive more than me. I'll cover. Jack looked at her, started to argue, then nodded. All right. But you run fast when I say go. Don't stop for nothing. Miguel moved to the door, rifle ready. On 3. 1, 2, 3. He burst out running low and fast. Shots kicked up dirt around him. He returned fire without breaking stride, made it to the barn, turned and started shooting back at the house's attackers. Emma. Now. Emma ran. She was faster than Miguel, younger, but one of Cross's men saw her. That's the girl? Get her. Sarah's rifle came up. She fired 3 times fast as she could work the lever. The man targeting Emma fell. Emma made the barn. Your turn, Jack said. Not yet. Miguel needs more cover. Sarah. I said not yet. She fired again. Again. Forcing Cross's men to keep their heads down. Jack added his fire to hers. Together they created enough chaos that the attackers scattered, seeking cover. Now. Jack grabbed her arm. Run. Sarah ran. Her lungs burned. Her legs felt like water. Bullets whipped past, too close, too many. 10 yards. 5. Something hit her like a hammer blow. Her left shoulder exploded in pain. She stumbled, but didn't fall. Couldn't fall. Had to reach the barn. Strong hands grabbed her, pulled her inside. Miguel. You're hit, he said. Doesn't matter. Where's Jack? She turned. Jack was still at the house, firing methodically, covering her retreat like he'd promised. Jack! Come on! He fired twice more, then ran. Cross's men saw their chance. 5 of them broke cover, trying to cut him off. No! Sarah raised her rifle with her good arm. Fired. Missed. Emma fired. 1 attacker fell. Miguel fired. Another fell. Jack was halfway to the barn when his leg buckled. He went down hard. Sarah screamed, started to run back to him. Miguel grabbed her. You'll die. Let me go. Jack was getting up, dragging his wounded leg. Still firing. Still fighting. 3 yards from the barn, he fell again. Sarah tore free from Miguel, ran out into the open. Bullets sang around her. She didn't care. She grabbed Jack's collar, dragged him with strength born of desperation. Miguel appeared beside her, firing with one hand, pulling Jack with the other. They got him inside. Sarah slammed the barn door shut, dropped the heavy bar across it. How bad? She asked, already kneeling beside Jack. Leg. Through the muscle. I'll live. His face was pale with pain. You're hit worse. It's nothing. You're bleeding. So are you. They stared at each other, 2 stubborn, wounded people who'd somehow survived the last 5 minutes. Then Jack started laughing. We're idiots. Complete idiots, Sarah agreed. We should have run. Probably. Too late now. Way too late. Emma was at the window, her rifle ready. They're pulling back, regrouping. How many did we get? Jack asked. 7 down, maybe 8. I can't tell if that one by the fence is dead or just hiding. So 15 left, still bad odds. Miguel was wrapping Sarah's shoulder with strips torn from his shirt. The house is burning good now. Won't be nothing left by tonight. Don't need the house. Just need to survive long enough for help to arrive. What help? Sarah asked. Kane can't. Not Kane, Reverend Howard. I sent him a message yesterday. If shooting started, he was to wire the territorial marshal's office. Tell them a federal officer was abusing his authority, attacking civilians. You think they'll care? They'll care about jurisdiction. Cross is Denver's marshal. This is Texas territory. He's got no authority here without local cooperation, and Kane's already on record saying he won't cooperate. So we just have to hold out until the territorial boys arrive. Yeah. How long will that take? Day, maybe 2. Sarah looked at their situation. Trapped in a barn. Limited ammunition. 3 people wounded. 1 13-year-old girl who shouldn't be here at all. We can't hold for 2 days. We don't have a choice. Cross's voice boomed across the yard. Mercer, you listening? Jack moved to the window, favoring his wounded leg. I'm listening. Smart play getting to the barn, but you're just delaying the inevitable. I got men, I got ammunition, I got time. What do you got? Enough to make you regret coming here. Brave words from a man bleeding in a barn. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna give you 1 hour. 1 hour to come to your senses. Send out Sarah and the girl, and I'll let you and the Mexican live. You got my word. Your word's worth nothing. Then you're all gonna die. I'll burn that barn same as I burned the house. Smoke you out. Shoot you when you run. Either way, I get what I came for. Jack didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because Cross was right. The barn was stone, but the roof was wood. The doors were wood. Everything would burn eventually. What do we do? Sarah asked quietly. We pray help arrives before Cross gets impatient. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Cross's men tried rushing the barn twice. Both times accurate rifle fire from the windows drove them back. 2 more men fell. 13 left. But ammunition was running low. Sarah's shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. Jack's leg had stopped bleeding, but he couldn't put weight on it. Miguel was the only one still at full strength, and he was 65 years old. Emma sat against the wall reloading rifles with mechanical precision. Her face was streaked with powder smoke and tears. I'm sorry, Sarah told her. I'm so sorry I brought you into this. You didn't bring me into nothing, Mama. I chose to fight. I'd choose it again. You're 13. I'm old enough to know what's right. And standing up to that man that's right, even if we die doing it. Sarah pulled her daughter close with her good arm. You're the bravest person I know. I learned from you. They sat in silence, listening to Cross's men moving outside, surrounding the barn, getting ready for the final push. When they come again, Jack said, they'll come from all sides at once, try to overwhelm us with numbers. Can we stop them? Miguel asked. No, but we can make them pay for every inch. Sarah checked her rifle. 3 rounds left. After that, her pistol. 6 shots. 9 bullets between her and Nathaniel Cross. It would have to be enough. The attack came at sunset. 15 men from 4 directions, all shooting, all screaming. The barn erupted in gunfire. Sarah fired until her rifle clicked empty. Switched to her pistol. Fired until that was empty too. Beside her, Jack and Miguel did the same. Emma kept shooting long after everyone else had run dry. Men fell, but more kept coming. The barn door shuddered under impacts. Someone was trying to break it down. They're coming through, Miguel shouted. Jack handed Sarah his knife. When they get in, you take Emma and the boys. There's a loose board in the back wall. Get out. Run. No. Sarah. No. We started this together. We end it together. The door splintered, crashed inward. Nathaniel Cross stepped through. Pistol raised. Warren beside him. 3 more men behind them. Finally, Cross said. Took long enough. Jack stepped in front of Sarah, even though he could barely stand. You want her? You go through me. Gladly. Cross raised his pistol. A rifle shot cracked from outside. Warren fell a hole between his eyes. More shots. Cross's men started dropping. What the? Cross spun. Through the shattered door, Sarah saw riders, men in suits, badges gleaming. Sheriff Kane's voice. "Federal marshals, drop your weapons." Cross's face went white, then red. "This is my jurisdiction." "Not anymore." A tall man with a silver badge stepped into view. "Nathaniel Cross, you're under arrest for abuse of authority, assault, attempted murder, and about 6 other charges I'll think of later." "You can't. I'm a U.S. Marshal." "You were a U.S. Marshal. Now you're just a criminal who used his badge to terrorize citizens." The tall marshal gestured. "Boys, take him." Cross fought, screamed, made threats. It didn't matter. He was dragged away in chains. Sarah's legs gave out. She sat down hard, her shoulders screaming, her body shaking with reaction. It was over. After 3 years of running, 3 years of fear, it was finally over. Jack lowered himself beside her, grimacing with pain. "You all right?" "No, but I will be." "Yeah, you will." Emma emerged from her position, her face pale. "Is he really gone?" "He's really gone, sweetheart." Emma's composure cracked. She started crying, great gulping sobs she'd been holding back for hours. Sarah pulled her close, held her while she shook. Thomas and Daniel came up from the cellar, blinking in the fading light. "Mama?" Daniel's voice was small. "Can we stay now? Can we stop running?" Sarah looked at Jack, at Miguel, at the barn that had saved their lives, at the smoldering ruins of the house they'd defended. "Yeah, baby, we can stay." The territorial marshal, his name was Coleman, took statements from everyone, documented the bodies, made it official that Cross had acted without authority, that his warrant was fraudulent, that everything he'd done was illegal. "You're free to go, Mrs. Bennett," Coleman said. "No charges, no warrants, clean slate." Sarah almost didn't believe him. Just like that. Just like that. Cross kept sloppy records, made a lot of enemies. When word got out he was abusing his power, people started talking. "We've got testimony from 5 other women he harassed. Evidence he'd been taking bribes. Hell, we got enough to put him away for 20 years. What about the fire, the deaths?" "Investigated. You were 5 miles away when it started. Multiple witnesses confirm it. And the fire inspector's report, the one Cross buried, shows the fire started from a knocked-over lamp during a fight. Cross started that fight. Those deaths are on him, not you." Sarah felt 3 years of weight lift off her shoulders. "I'm really free. You're really free." She started crying then, couldn't stop. 3 years of fear and grief and exhaustion pouring out all at once. Jack held her while she sobbed, his arms solid and sure. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. They stayed like that until the tears finally stopped. "What now?" Sarah asked when she could speak again. "Now we rebuild," Jack said. "The house is gone, but the barn's solid. We can live there until we build something new. If you're staying, if you want to." Sarah looked at him, really looked at him. This stubborn man who'd risked everything to protect her, who'd stood against a corrupt marshal and 20 armed men, who'd given her family safety and hope and a future she thought they'd lost forever. "Yeah," she said, "I'm staying." "Good, because I got plans that include you." "What kind of plans?" "The kind that involve making this arrangement permanent. Legal, if you're amenable." Sarah's heart stuttered. "Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking if you'd consider marrying me. When you're ready. No rush. Just eventually. If you want." "I don't know what I want," Sarah admitted. "I just spent 3 years surviving. I don't know how to live anymore." "Then we'll figure it out together. You, me, the kids, Miguel. We'll build something good here. Something worth having." Sarah thought about running, about the road she'd walked for 3 years, about the fear that had driven her. Then she thought about Emma's laughter, Thomas's pride in his work, Daniel's drawings covering the barn walls, thought about Jack's steady presence, Miguel's terrible jokes, the kittens in the barn. Thought about what it would mean to put down roots, to stop looking over her shoulder, to build instead of flee. "All right," she said. "Yes, eventually, when I'm ready." Jack's smile was like sunrise after a long night. "Eventually's good enough for me." 6 months later, Reverend Howard married them in what was left of the ranch yard. The new house wasn't finished yet. They'd been living in the barn making it work, but it didn't matter. What mattered was Sarah standing beside Jack, her children beside her, promising to build a life together. Emma stood as witness proud in a new dress she'd sewn herself. Thomas held the rings, his chest puffed with importance. Daniel scattered wildflowers he'd picked that morning. Miguel cried, claimed it was dust. Everyone pretended to believe him. When Reverend Howard said, "You may kiss your bride," Jack did. Gentle and careful, like Sarah was something precious. Maybe she was. Maybe they both were. Two broken people who'd found each other and decided to be whole together. The wedding feast was simple, but joyful. Neighbors came, people who'd heard about the siege, about Sarah's courage, about Jack's stand against corruption. People who'd decided that anyone brave enough to face down Nathaniel Cross deserved to be welcomed. As the sun set and people drifted home, Sarah stood with Jack watching Daniel chase fireflies with the other children. "You happy?" Jack asked. "I don't know yet, but I'm not afraid anymore. That's a start." "Yeah, it is." Years passed. The house got built bigger than before, with room for the children to grow. Thomas became Miguel's protege, eventually taking over much of the ranch work. Emma started teaching school in the barn-turned-classroom, educating ranch children who couldn't make the journey to town. Daniel grew into a quiet, artistic boy who drew everything he saw, preserving the life they'd built in careful sketches. Sarah learned to laugh again, to trust again, to believe that good things could last. Jack learned that loving someone didn't mean losing them, that opening his heart again wouldn't destroy him. They had more children, 2 boys and a girl who never knew fear the way their older siblings had, who grew up safe and loved and certain of their place in the world. On their 25th anniversary, Sarah and Jack stood in the yard where she'd first arrived. The house was full of grandchildren now. Emma had married a teacher from Redemption. Thomas had built his own ranch nearby. Daniel's art hung in galleries in Santa Fe and Denver. "You ever regret staying?" Jack asked. Sarah thought about it, about the scars she still carried, about the nightmares that occasionally woke her, about Nathaniel Cross dying in prison 5 years earlier, unlamented and alone. "No," she said finally. "Running was surviving. But this is living, and I'd choose living every time, even knowing what it cost, especially knowing what it cost, because now I know what I'm capable of, what we're all capable of when we stop running and start fighting." Jack pulled her close and Sarah let herself lean into him the way she'd learned to over 25 years. Let herself feel safe in a way she'd never thought possible. They'd built something good here, something worth having, something that would outlast them both. And it had all started with a simple job notice and a desperate widow brave enough to answer it. "Thank you," Sarah whispered. "For what? For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. For fighting when I wanted to run. For teaching me that some things are worth standing for. You taught me the same thing. We saved each other." "Yeah, I guess we did." They stood together as the sun set over their ranch, their children and grandchildren laughing inside their future bright and certain. Sarah Bennett Mercer had stopped running 25 years ago, and in standing still, she'd found everything she'd been running toward all along.